I just felt like there was opportunities to operationalize the way that law firms take on digital intake, support the way that they engage with potential new clients, and really emulate consumer buying habits in the way that every other commoditized good operates and bridge that with the legal industry.
Sharp strategies, sweet success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. I'm your host, Tiffany Swedensky, and today I am here with Daniel Steinberg of Lawbroker, and he's going to talk with me today, and we're going to spin off in whatever questions that I might have, because as I told him, I don't plan this. So I'm eager to hear more about him and what his company has to offer.
Awesome. Well, Tiffany, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks so much. So tell everyone a little bit about you and your company and what you all do.
Yeah, great question. So my name is Daniel Steinberg. I'm the CEO and founder of Lawbroker. I started this company about 4.5 years ago, coming up on 5, which is crazy as a startup. I fell into the legal space, I guess, about 6.5 years ago, working in partnerships at Clio. So I was managing relationships with agencies like yourself, Tiffany, and then all the way through to the 250 plus app partners that existed at the time in order to sort of operationalize law firms and support the way that they scale and grow. And about 4.5 years ago, spun out to start Lawbroker. I was working with Google on digitizing a law firm online, in its most basic form, helping law firms get on Google My Business to help grow their practices. And I just felt like there was opportunities to operationalize the way that law firms take on digital intake, support the way that they engage with potential new clients, and really emulate consumer buying habits in the way that every other commoditized good operates and bridge that with the legal industry. So, Lawbroker at its core is a digital intake and marketing solution. We help, again, digitize the way that potential new clients engage with you at the forefront. And really, what that looks like is replacing static contact forms, which is a clunky experience, poor quality data, lack of standardization for law firms, and really bridging that with a better consumer experience, conversational workflows, capturing better quality data and standardization across the board, and funneling that into your favorite tools that you use every single day.
So you guys handle, it sounds like a lot of like the automations and integrations, which, as fractional CMO, like I end up dealing a lot with or working a lot with. And those kinds of connections are really important because we get a lot of marketing data through them. What are your challenges, or what challenges do you have getting these automations set up for the law firms that you're working with?
Yeah, it's a great question because implementing legal technology as Tiffany can be incredibly challenging or invasive to a law firm. Training, onboarding, migration, downtime, 500 other things that exist. The way that we think about law brokers, we're a flexibility platform. So the intent is to make sure that we play into the confines of whatever tool set your current law firm leverages on both the marketing and CRM and practice management side of the fence. So we integrate natively with all the major legal CRMs and external CRMs, and then we also integrate with all the marketing tool sets and things like that. And it's very important to us to make sure that it's simplistic in order to get started with law brokers. So traditionally, our customers onboard in 72 hours or less from our platform perspective. And then we're working with fractional CMOs, marketing agencies, and folks that own sort of like the digital landscape for law firms to make sure that our platform goes live and is engaged across all different channels. So from like an implementation perspective, that's actually the last part of our challenges. That's not something that we run up against, similar to other sort of legal technology companies. I think for us, it's making sure that we're building the right relationships with folks like yourself and educating the marketing stack and the marketing world on where we fit into the fold in order to operationalize how you work with your clients.
It's so interesting because, like, each technology that you work with comes with its own learning curve. And so you're bringing together a lot of these tools, you're bringing together a lot of these like systems. What's the big benefit that a law firm sees by like leveraging what you guys have and what you guys do?
Yeah, there's really like three core use cases to like where the benefits are when it comes to a platform like Lawbroker. The first piece sits more in like the marketing tool set, and that comes with the web traffic conversion function of a law firm. So traditionally, static contact forms drive really high bounce rates and poor quality data. Lawbroker optimizes that experience. We typically see about a 3 to 5x lift in web traffic conversion. So we're giving law firms more at bats, inherently giving them opportunities to close more business on the retained client side. That's the first piece of the fence. So more volume. Depending on the type of practice area that you are, you could also use Lawbroker as a pre-screening platform. So the other benefit to Lawbroker is making sure that you're analyzing high intent and lead data that ultimately is standardized to make sure that you're bringing in the right types of cases so that you're not wasting time on dead end consultations and poor quality leads. The third side of the fence is essentially standardizing the data collection process to help the intake staff take lead to conversion faster. So the more data you have up front in a standard and repeatable way, the more likely you can create call metrics and calling functions and trainability functions in order to help take those lead to conversions faster because you actually understand the nuances of the case before picking up the phone when it comes to the intake management side of the fence. If you don't have standardized data and you're always working off of sob stories or messaging like I need help or things of that nature, you begin to play 21 questions with that client, and it's really hard to create a better client experience and ultimately compete against maybe the 3 to 4 other law firms that individual reached out to. So there's kind of like a three-pronged approach when it comes to our platform.
So you mentioned the website forms and getting more opt-ins from that and optimizing that process. What does that look like? Does it become like a live chat, an interactive form? Like how does that behave?
Yeah, it's an interactive form. We call it conversational workflows. It's really sort of engaging the user through gamification to capture like relevant and repeatable data every single time. So we're not a live chat, we're not a chat bot, we're not a calling tool. We're kind of like the third leg of that stool. When we think about the overarching like landscape or digital landscape of a law firm, there's really three ways that a client's going to engage. They're going to call, they're going to engage in chat, or they're going to engage from like the digital transformation side. You got to pair all three of those functions together to create that client journey and client experience. And then we're on that sort of form side of things.
So you mentioned you did more than chat. I mean, you bring together all of these tools, and it sounds like you guys push a lot of marketing data around. Something I've been playing around more with is getting these intake dashboards like Lead Docket and Clio and Locus to send data to Facebook ads to report conversion events. It's been really useful for the Facebook ads that we're doing and we're running. So I'm curious, like, because I have to go through Zapier and I have to put on my developer hat to kind of build those connections. Can your tool integrate with Facebook ads or report event data like that, or does it handle like conversion event data?
Yeah, so Lawbroker integrates natively with Google and Meta. So all the data that's captured with inside of the Lawbroker environment pushes back conversion data to each of those tools so that you're also not working in the confines of our platform. As a marketer and a fractional CMO, like your core tool set and operating system is Meta, Google. Maybe you're doing some reporting inside of the tools that you just mentioned, like a lead docket, Clio, Locus. But at the end of the day, your core use case is how do you operationalize the ad management that your core focused on. So Lawbroker pushes back that conversion data so that there's no offline conversion tracking or anything like that. And you can track back the campaigns that are ultimately converting. And then the secondary piece to Lawbroker that's nice is we're a hyperlink. So you can actually leverage Lawbroker's links anywhere across your digital landscape, not just your website. So it can sit on Google My Business, Google Ad Campaigns, Meta Campaigns, social media, Avo, lawyer.com, anywhere else that clients might find you in order to standardize that data collection. And we have a really robust lead and source attribution model that allows you to track back that first session ID so you really understand where that client's coming from and how they converted in order to enhance the marketing sort of engagement on your end.
So how have you guys like, because I feel like I'm getting bits and pieces of what your program can do. Like give me like the full picture. What would you say like its number one use cases?
Digital intake and web traffic conversion. So we're a digital intake and marketing tool. If you want to standardize again, like the data collection process, and you want to understand from an attribution perspective, how far your marketing dollars are going, where things are breaking down on a funnel basis, where the conversions are happening, you're going to leverage the law broker platform in order to do that.
So, like, you guys integrate with CallRail, Lead Docket, and like other tools where we're also gathering like lead data, right?
Yep.
So, when it comes to website traffic and getting people to convert, what do you think holds people back from interacting with the site or submitting a form?
Lack of education, 100% of the time. I think at the end of the day, like an end consumer likely that is converting digitally has likely never engaged a law firm before, or maybe 1 to 2 times in their lives. And the lack of education of what it means to engage with a law firm and tell them what you need help with can be scary during a very vulnerable period. It can be confusing. It could feel like it's going into a spam folder. There's a lot of different elements psychologically as to why someone doesn't convert in traditional forms. The way that we've built our technology is all focused around consumer psychology and emulating the way that consumers shop for everyday goods and services. So if you're going to create experiences that look and feel like a TikTok or Instagram quiz or your favorite e-commerce sites and the psychology around that, that's going to make it a lot easier for the client to engage with you. And you can also layer in some trail bits of education as to like why these questions are being asked, how you can engage with our law firm, what the expectation is once you've converted, what does that look like, and what can you actually expect from the law firm, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of layers of education that should and do need to be functioned. And the unfortunate reality is you can build as many blog articles about it as you want and about sections on your website as you want. But when a consumer is landing on your website, you have 30 seconds to convert that consumer. They're not playing around or reading your blog articles. The reason that they're reading your blog articles, that's how they found you, but they're not going and educating themselves around how, do an estate plan or what your slip and fall case looks like compared to your next best competitor.
And it's interesting to think about because I'm a woman, so I see a lot of like hair, makeup, health, beauty type ads. And a lot of those products run on quizzes. Like there's a couple foundations where you answer a few questions and get your perfect shade. And in the world of like makeup and beauty, there are probably thousands of articles about finding foundation shades. But the quiz is fun and it's visual. And when it's done right, when you ask the questions one at a time, each question gets you like further invested in the process. And the longer you're in that process, the harder it is to detach. It's almost like sunk cost fallacy, kind of. So what you guys are doing is kind of similar and really what a lot of people have like done in different variations, like the claim calculator. Because I think that people interpret those quizzes and in some extent they use ChatGPT this way because we like to think the more information we give, the better information we're going to get back. And so that quizzes help and I know yours is more than a quiz, but quizzes help in that way.
100%, 100%. Yeah. Again, a lot of it's built on different psychology of the way that other industries are ultimately converting traffic and engaging the end user. And there's so much value and validity to understanding the human psychology function when you're actually engaging an end user. And it should be no different in the law. There should be different elements when it comes to the law. But at the end of the day, you're engaging an end user and you're converting them in a similar fashion.
Absolutely. Give me an idea of like kind of a walkthrough of what it would look like for somebody who like engages with your all's tool. I don't want to call it a widget. Widget kind of sounds like, but give me a picture of what that interaction would look like from the user's perspective.
Yeah, it's very dependent. At the end of the day, like they're conversational workflows. So it's really dependent on like where the end user finds you. But as a client of Law Broker, you should be placing your Law Broker links everywhere that clients find you to create that standardization across the board. So it's not just your website. People are finding you on social media, like I mentioned earlier, on Google, on ChatGPT, and all these different blog articles and tool sets. If you want to utilize the way that you can capture clients everywhere and increase your conversion intent, you want to create different experiences based off where people are landing. So the back end of Lawbroker gives you the flexibility of building different engagement quizzes, as you referred to it as, or conversational workflows that can be placed in different environments based off where people are landing. The core use case of where people place Lawbroker is in naturally their website. on call to actions like get a free case evaluation or get a free consultation. And that takes you into a different environment that ultimately takes people down different paths based off their unique use case. If you're a multi-practice firm, you'd have a broad strokes engagement that would take them down a more tailored experience as they click and down different practice types and service types and so forth. If you're one practice area firm, it will take you directly into sort of like that experience and allow them to sort of engage from there. And then more importantly, if people are landing on like legal specific pages like bike accident or, estate planning, you can actually create this conversational marketing effect that if people land on those pages, you can take them directly into the funnel and start to engage with them right then and there. So there's a lot of different ways of how it might interact once the client has ultimately like created that engagement. All that data is going to push directly into your local CRM, whether that's legal specific, a HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. And then from there, you're really utilizing Law Broker as like a back-end analytics tool to really analyze like where are people converting, how they're converting, so that you can spend money more efficiently and also take the data and be a little bit more like data focused around the way that you're building different blog articles and scaling sort of the SEO and marketing function of your firm.
So when you say conversational workflows, makes it sound as though there is kind of a chat component. You guys aren't doing just like yes, no questions, like the person is engaging with natural language. Does that sound right?
Not at this time. So it isn't a live chat or anything like that. It's fairly rudimentary from like a conversion perspective. There is logic attached to the workflows if you want to add different logic paths. But when we say conversational workflows, it's more about allowing the consumer to engage where they landed and continue the quote unquote conversation from there. So if they're like, hey, ChatGPT, I need an estate planning lawyer, and it takes them to an estate planning page and then converts into there, and it's continuing that conversation into that sort of digital intake. That's kind of how we refer to it as, but we're not using natural language models right now to sort of have the conversation with that end client. We want to convert them at a very high intent rate and ultimately bring them into the funnel so that the team can analyze it and then have the conversation from there.
This is one of those things where I feel like I probably have a better understanding if I did like a demo. Sometimes these things are really visual, or at least I'll be really visual about it. But you said like you can use this across like directories and listings and social media platforms. So they can basically start an intake wherever you're at on the internet, is what it sounds like, right?
As long as there's a call to action. So most of those directory listings have get a consultation, or if you're on Instagram and it allows you to swipe up on a story or, YouTube short or things like that, anywhere that you can place law broker links allows you to start that digital intake right then and there.
That's pretty awesome. So I'm always curious when I'm talking with vendors and marketers, but so you said you've been in the legal space for the past like 6 years or so. What industry were you in before, if you don't mind sharing?
Advocacy marketing. So I sold advocacy marketing software to massive organizations, Cisco, Oracle, Salesforce, etc., prior to starting at Clio. So the build out of how we think about Law Broker and scale the platform is all around the consumer psychology from my past experiences in conjunction with the law.
So what, like coming over to the law side of things, like what have you know, what are the differences for you? What are the big differences like working within the legal space?
I think that it's ripe for opportunity and ripe for growth from digitizing a law practice. I think AI has done an incredible job scaling the world of law and operationalizing practices. But from a foundational level, there's still a lot of work to be done from a growth and digital side of the business prior to engaging with AI tooling and things like that. So for me, it's more about there's a lot of foundational processes that have to exist with inside of an organization in order to help scale their digital experiences. And what's so unique to law is that when people find you, they actively probably need help. Whereas within every other industry, there's an educational component that still needs to determine whether someone wants to make that purchase decision. And what's so unique and probably makes your life a little bit easier as a marketer in legal is the consumer actively needs help when they're there. And I think that there's this discrepancy between how do you utilize different tooling to help them get there while at the same time digitizing the way that law firms engage with that end consumer. So I just think that there's some opportunity for growth in that capacity, even with the world of AI and how much it's blown up the world of legal.
And definitely with things like Facebook ads. And I know a lot of attorneys listen to my podcast, and some of them are pretty lukewarm on Facebook ads. But I've also seen it work at some larger firms, and I've seen the way it works. And you wouldn't believe how well, like, not even just a chat bot, but a chat agent, sometimes live agents, how well that works in terms of making something like Facebook ads where speed to lead is critical. You're dealing with a lot of leads that need to be filtered to a certain point, and anything that can get to them quickly is going to be better than waiting for your intake specialist to show up in the office on Monday morning at 9 a.m. And having quick responses and getting that person, like I mentioned earlier, like really committed to your intake process through this like continual engagement. And like you already said, like you guys natively integrate with Facebook business. And so that's like a huge, and think about like beyond, like if you're not doing Facebook ads, let's just say you're doing Facebook as a law firm. One question like I'll ask law firms and they don't know the answer to is who's responding to your Facebook messages? Who's responding to chats and DMs? And at most law firms, like there's nobody. And so there really is a huge gap in the intake systems, and it's difficult for a lot of these smaller law firms. And there are so many ways to bridge that gap with not even AI tools, but like simple, not even simple, but like automations, workflows, digital tools that other industries have been using for a while. So law firms, for some reason, are very slow to adapt. And it's weird now when you see what's available in terms of what we can use to better market and reach our clients. And I mean, it sounds like you guys are basically right there trying to help law firms get better systems to respond to these leads faster.
Yeah, no, it's exactly true. And I think like the slow piece of adoption is more the focus around the business of law and ultimately like dealing with some major issues internally from actually supporting the legal engagement. It becomes challenging to adopt technology and migrate and train staff and things of that nature. I understand the laggardness of adoption because it's really challenging to stand up new systems in place that can seriously impact an organization that is actively trying to drive justice to their clients, right? So I think that's part of the equation. And it's very challenging to build out different processes and new technologies that seriously impact like how you actually are going to engage the end consumer. So it's not by accident, it's more just needing to put pieces in place that make it simple for the user and simple for the customer to bring on technologies that can help support their growth.
And keeping it simple is so important when it comes to technology. There's a certain elegance to simplicity or streamlined design. Because if you have something that's complicated, the law firm won't use it. And if the law firm doesn't use it, it's tough. The tool isn't useful if you're not using it. And then for the leads or potential clients, they don't want to go through a process that's complicated. They don't want to have to spend time thinking about how to engage with you, a law firm. And for many, many people, phone calls are extremely intimidating. And so sometimes these alternate routes, like alternate paths that people can take to start a relationship with a business, it's important to have all of them. It's important to have text, chat, whatever else, like calls, phone tracking, maybe not AI voice agents. I frankly just haven't seen that work yet. But it's important to have like many avenues that people can contact you because everyone's different. Everyone wants to interact with you a little bit different. And what is it? The golden rule is to treat people as they want to be treated, and I think in this case, like let people communicate the way that they want to communicate with you. And that's an important marketing lesson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I'm aligned.
One thing I do to wrap up the podcast is like my last two questions. One, what's something that you wanted to talk about or expected to talk about that we just didn't get to today? Did you have anything like on your mind or any promotions or anything you want to share like that?
No subtle plugs or promotions. No, I think this was good. I love just having open conversations about the industry and the front end client experience. I don't think I have anything more to share or something that I expected to share that I want to share. No promotions. If you want to learn more about Law Broker, I'm sure you can find us online and have a conversation with us, but no need to sort of have that plug on here at all.
Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing with me today. Where do you want people to look you up, learn more about you?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. If you're looking to engage, always open to chat on LinkedIn. You can add me on linkedin.com/in/dsteinberg9. If you want to learn more about Lawbroker, go to lawbroker, lawbrokr.com, drop the E. And yeah, we'll be happy to share more about our platform and talk to you from there.